I work in a primary school, and it's been fascinating to me to see just how engaged with the US election the primary school age kids here in Australia on the other side of the world are. And not only that, but to see how strongly they hold their opinions of who's right and who's wrong. And I think we could probably, most of us would agree that there is a sense of almost unhealthy tribalism, or not almost, of unhealthy tribalism and unhealthy black and white thinking. And I'm not talking about racial here, I'm talking about right or wrong, good or bad, my way or your way, them and us thinking that's going on. And you might think, or maybe it's politics, or maybe it's just this one time, or whatever you might be thinking, but I reckon that actually it points to a problem that's happening in our society more and more. Because increasingly there is this sense of people being exposed to only to the opinions of those people that they agree with. I mean, our social media algorithms mean that what we look at and agree with, and the things that we post that say one thing or another, or the things that we look at and click on, end up determining what it is that comes into our feed more and more. So that we're increasingly exposed to that narrow opinion that agrees with what we're thinking already. And then not only are we exposed to the thinking that we already have, but we are exposed to perhaps the more extreme version of our own opinions. And so our opinions can easily become narrower and narrower. And then more and more, what we're exposed to is a sense that not only is what we're thinking right, but what other people are thinking is wrong. Because there's this way of getting us to agree with somebody by getting us to disagree with those people that disagree with them. Now, I might have to say that again. The way that people are getting us to agree with them is by getting us to disagree strongly with those people that disagree with them. Which is why we're hearing not so much of people who are pro somebody and pro somebody else, but just as much we're hearing people who are anti this person, anti that person, anti this way of thinking, anti that way of thinking. And I think this leads to some really challenging things for our world. When we have a sense of division, when we have an increasing amount of people who are saying not only that their opinions are right and that they hold them really strongly, but that they are anti those people who disagree with them. And at the worst end of it, we have seen in history some horrible things like genocide. And I'm not trying to link that with what's going on in the US or anything like that, but we need to realise that where we're at is the thin end of the wedge. And so what do we do about it? Because I'm not really just talking about a global thing, but I'm talking about what's happening for you and me. How do we address this issue? It's interesting to me that Jesus, who spoke more than 2,000 years ago, has something to say about this. Jesus said at one stage, you've heard it said that you should love your neighbour and maybe hate your enemy, but he said you should actually love your enemy. Pray for those who persecute you. He said it's not hard to love those who love you. Everyone can do that. It's not hard to greet those people who are like you. But what about loving those who think differently to you? Greeting people who are different from you? What about exposing yourself to a different school of thought? Now, don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying that Jesus is suggesting that we should be just ready to hold our opinions loosely and give them up to those people who might have a different opinion to us. That we should be all wishy-washy and not hold opinions. That we should just think that everyone's truth is their truth and that's all there is to do with it. That's not what I'm saying at all. I don't think that this is what Jesus is saying. But he is saying that we should learn to love people who think differently to us. We should learn to listen to people and be friendly to people and have conversations with people who hold a different opinion to us. When was the last time you did that? When was the last time you sat opposite somebody who you know has a different way of life to yours? Who you know has a different religious perspective, a different political perspective, a different social makeup to you, comes from a different culture to you, and really just had a genuine conversation about understanding their world and maybe sharing respectfully your opinions at the same time. When we do that, not only do we break down the barriers of division and hatred, but we also get a chance to be able to share respectfully somebody else's life, to be able to listen to what they have to say, to challenge perhaps our thinking, and sometimes to change it, and sometimes to become more sure of it. But always within the boundaries of love and respect. Good luck, and may God go with you as you allow yourself to love not only those people who agree with you, but others as well.